everyone, and welcome to another edition of Jays Talkin. Matt and Andrew here to bring some baseball talk from our living rooms to yours. Make sure to go follow us on social media at Dunedin Blue Jays on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Today's guest was undrafted out of the New York Institute of Technology in 2011 and is currently a coach with the Dunedin Blue Jays. Please welcome Coach George Carroll. George, how you doing today?
What's up, baby? How you guys doing?
We're doing great, man. We're just getting ready for some baseball coming up here in the next couple of weeks, man.
Yeah, God willing.
What have you guys been doing? What's been going on during quarantine? I know you're down here. What's been going on during quarantine down here?
Well, I live in Tampa, right? So I live in the Tampa Bay area. I'm from a small town up north called New York City. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. Population's about like 8 million or something like that. In my town, I grew up in Queens. Population's about 3 million. So small town guy growing up living in Tampa. But I'll tell you what, living down here and the weather being pretty nice up until the past 3 weeks, you're able to get outside, you're able to do stuff. My wife and I, we challenge each other on a couple things during this time period. And one of those challenges was, started off with a weight loss challenge kind of type thing. So I ended up actually losing like 30-something pounds throughout this whole thing. So it was pretty good.
You're doing a lot better than most of us.
No complaints. Yeah, no complaint. Yeah, I heard someone say you're going to come out of this thing as a hunk or a chunk, and I'm going with a hunk, baby.
There you go.
So you said you were born in right outside of Queens, Bayside, New York, actually, it said on your baseball reference page. When did you first start playing baseball, George?
Probably as like a little kid. I don't remember playing t-ball, but I do have a kind of a memory of my uncle took me one time to like tryouts at like Little League tryouts when I was like 5. And I remember him saying, he's like, I knew you were going to be good when you were 5. I said, oh, what are you talking about? Because he brought my neighbor with us. And he goes, the ball went up in the air. They told you to catch it. You put your hands up. You caught it. The ball went up in the air for the other kid. He put his hands up and it hit him in the face and he cried. So he said, I always knew you were going to be good. So I guess about 5, 6 when I probably started really playing baseball.
That's all it takes is catching a pop fly and not letting it hit you in the face, right?
Yeah, just don't let it hit you in the face. It'd be good.
So who are some of your favorite athletes growing up? What ball players were you looking up to?
Well, the political answer, I should probably say, I was a huge Robbie Alomar fan, huge Delgado fan. But in reality, I grew up a Yankee fan. So my favorite player growing up, believe it or not, and this is going to sound funny, was Biggio's dad, Greg Biggio's Long Island guy. One of my favorite players growing up, even though he wasn't a Yankee. Jorge Posada was probably, my guy, GC20. Got the 20 on my necklace. Big fan. Started wearing that when I was a kid. But my dad was a huge Don Mattingly fan. And I don't really remember watching him play, but I remember my dad always talking about Mattingly and how this guy, Tino Martinez, ain't no Don Mattingly. And then Tino turned out to be Tino for the Yankees. But so, those were a couple of my favorite players growing up. I got a cool Mariano story I'll tell you later if you want to hear it. He was one of my favorite players. So, I grew up a Yankee fan. That's, I could recite the 96, 98, 99 rosters,
Well, let's hear the Mariano Rivera story. You got to kick it off. Let's kick it off with the Mo story right now, man.
You want to do that?
Let's go.
All right, fun fact. Coach George over here was the home run derby catcher in 2013. I caught the home run derby for the American League. Also caught the Futures game the day before in the bullpen. Not in the game, wasn't that good. And then I actually caught the American League bullpen for the All-Star game. And, I'll just fast there's a picture that someone sent me. It was me and Mo in the bullpen. And we were talking, and I have like my finger pointing, making the guy laugh, and he was laughing. And one of my friends goes, yo, dude, what the hell are you guys talking about? And so I went into the story. I said, well, in 96 or 90, this was before he was a closer. So I think it was like John Wetland or whoever the hell was the closer. But we went to this Holiday Inn near where I originally went to college. I went to Hofstra University first. So Hofstra, if you guys know Hofstra, when the Saints made the Super Bowl, they made fun of Hofstra. They said Marcus Colston, went to Hofstra. What's a Hofstra? That's where I went to college first. I went to Hofstra because, my mom went to Hofstra, my cousins went to Hofstra. Like many people are like Florida State fans and all those big football college fans. We were big Hofstra fans, big Speedy Claxton fan. But anyway, so the Holiday Inn was near Hofstra University, and he's signing autographs. And I remember my dad said something to him. He's like, "Oh, what would you rather do? Be throwing 100 pitches or sign 100 autographs?" And he said something like, "Oh yeah, throw 100 pitches in an inning or something." But the backstory to that card is the card that he signed. Not knowing this, my dad wasn't the sharpest bolt. My dad's not the sharpest tool in the box. The only statistics on the card were his Gulf Coast League stats. Signed the card. So at the All-Star game, his son played at Iona, which is near where I grew up. It's a little bit upstate. When I say upstate, it's like 20 minutes north of me, in Queens. But I asked him, I said, "Hey man, can your dad sign a card for me?" He goes, "Yeah, absolutely." So I had the card in my back pocket and I had a pen, and it was the same card. So he actually signed the same card for me twice. Once at 96 at some random freaking Holiday Inn Express or something, and then he signed it in the bullpen at Citi Field. And then POTUS, President of the United States, tweeted a picture of me giving Mo a pound as he was coming out of the bullpen. Not Mariano. It was me giving him a pound. So I got a couple cool stories from that All-Star game.
Wow, that's incredible. We're going to get to more of that. We're going to have to get to more of the All-Star game a little bit later, and how you got there and everything. And
story.
It's going to be a good interview when you drop Speedy Claxton and Marcus Colston.
Oh yeah, I used to work at Crabette's too. Wayne Crabette, remember that guy?
Oh yeah.
Bartending there for about a month until the guy the guy who was running it cheated me out of some tips, and I was like, "I'm out of here. See you later."
Yeah, Wayne Crabette's also isn't he a Hofstra guy? He's an Ivy League guy. Yep.
Well, Hofstra's not Ivy League, but you need to be somewhat intelligent. If you're a non-athlete, you're okay. But if you were a non-athlete, you had to be smarter. Non-athletes, got a little extra love, but trust me, not too many bright people walking around that campus sometimes.
So you attended Holy Cross High School. You played baseball all 4 years. You hit 330 your junior year, 318 your senior year. You're also team captain and graduated cum laude at Holy Cross. How much did Coach Doug Manfredonia, is that how you say it?
Manfredonia.
How much did he help your development as a young player?
Oh, significant, man. And part of it wasn't just Doug. It was also one of my best friends. I got to play high school baseball with one of my best friends, Kai Efri Valdez. So Efri and I played for Doug. We played for a team called the Bayside Yankees growing up. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but we were like a really, really good organization. Like my 16U team, I think out of 15 of us, I think 14 out of 15 of us played college baseball, and I think 8 or 10 of us played in the pros. So like we played got a really good team, man. But anyway, so Dougie was our coach one summer before he went to high school. And then, he really helped us grow. He taught us how to be men. He taught us, he didn't take it easy on us. And I think it was really, really beneficial for him to be like kind of a hard ass. And believe it or not, so Dougie played when I went to New York Tech, which is where I'm happy I ended up going to. So I went to New York Tech, and Doug played for Coach Hirschfield, who's like a legendary coach in Long Island. So, and Coach Hirsch, I think in like 38 years, produced 67 professionals. I was the 67th. I think there's now 68 that have come from my college. But going back to Holy Cross, we had a really good team, man. And, one of the things that Dougie always, one of the things that stuck up here is he was a big base running guy. He actually played for the Dodgers. So Dougie in the minor leagues, played in the Dodgers organization. But it's some of the things that he taught me, I actually teach to our guys here with the Blue Jays. Just the emphasizing of hitting the corners, making good turns, just the little things like that kind of have stuck with me from him. So like he really taught us a lot and, made us better, not just, better hitters and defenders, but, all around made us better baseball players. So actually when I went to Hofstra and I left Hofstra, I hated playing there. I enjoyed the college, but then I transferred to New York Tech. And when I went to New York Tech, believe it or not, I found this out 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I was actually the last player in NCAA history to transfer D1 to D1 and not sit out a year. Fun fact, learned that 3 weeks ago from my friend Chris Rojas, who's now coaching at New York Tech. Yeah, but went to Tech, but 5 of us went to high school together, actually played at New York Tech together, because it was like Doug fed a lot of the good players to New York Tech, believe it or not. Because on Long Island, well, at least back, up until I finished up there, you went to New York Tech. It wasn't because you really wanted to go to Tech, because you really thought there was a chance of you playing after college. Because Tech was known as like, oh, you go to Tech, there's a really good chance to get drafted, because Coach Hirsch, was tough, but he was like a father figure to us. He took care of us, and if you wanted it, you earned it. He would help you out. But at the end of the day, he said, hey, boys, you got to get a job one day. You can't play baseball forever. So he used to always tell us so. But he was real, and he was honest. And I think being cut from the same, Doug was cut from the same cloth I was cut from, and I think that's what instilled the work ethic and just being good baseball players.
So you kind of talked about it. Your family went to Hofstra. Is that what made you choose Hofstra? And did you have any other schools recruiting you coming out of high school?
Yeah, I had the 2 D1 offers. I had New York Tech. I had Tech, believe it or not, Tech and Hofstra. And then I had, Jesus Christ, I got to think back. Malloy College, a bunch of like Division IIs on Long Island. Malloy College, Dominican College, Concordia College. There was like a school called Methodist College or something like that in South Carolina. They're like, hey, you want to come pitch? I was like, I'm good. Yeah, there was a couple schools, but no, Hofstra and New York Tech were my 2, my 1A, 1B. Like I said, when I transferred to Tech, it was because I had a lot of my friends that were there, and I felt comfortable walking in that situation. And the kid who got my money at Tech ended up failing out his freshman year. So that money was available. So it was like the perfect storm. It was like, here you go. So, and one of the reasons why, so believe it or not, Dougie coached, I played in ACBL my first college summer league. Like, after freshman year, you play college summer ball. So I got to play in the ACBL. I got to play in the Cape twice. I got to play in the Valley League as well. But the ACBL, Doug was our coach. So I really had Doug as a coach for like freaking 6 years. But I remember I worked during the day. Coach Hirsch had a camp called the New York Baseball Academy, which was at the time, and for at least 35 years, it was the largest camp in the country. Like they would do 90 to 150 kids a week for 8 weeks. This thing was a well-oiled machine, man. Before Hirsch ended up selling it to Hofstra, which ironically sold it to Hofstra, the camp. But anyway, a lot of my friends worked at camp. We all worked camp because we all need money, right? So I remember all the guys at Tech were like, hey, this one kid failed out. Like, you should come. We could use you. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather go play for my friends than this guy who I'm playing for right now. And, I'm not going to mention his name, but, I just didn't feel comfortable there. I didn't like being there. I just didn't like it because at Tech, it was all guys I played against in high school, a lot of guys from Queens, a lot of guys from like the Long Island summer teams. I went to Hofstra. I didn't really feel like I fit in very well. But going to Tech, I remember when I got signed, I think it was Andrew Tinish, one of a scout for us when I got signed with the Blue Jays. I feel like it was him who came up to me and said, hey, I love Tech guys. I said, oh, really? He goes, why is that? He goes, you guys got effing Bulldogs. I love it. And I was like, oh, all right, we got a good reputation. It was either him or Mike Pesci. I forgot who it was. It was one of the guys. But Tech always had a reputation of like putting out guys who were like, we'll run through a wall for you and kick your ass.
So I was reading a little interview that was in a newspaper in 2011 after you got signed by the Jays. They were interviewing one of your old teammates, Alex Nikolic.
Nikolic, yeah.
And he said that when you were starting as a freshman, 14 years on varsity, you guys would go to a gym in Queens with Coach Doug, yourself, and Alex, and set up the nets and have a late night winter practice, and you were in there working on your swing. Tell us a little bit about some of those late night practices and what you learned in there.
Yeah, it was me. Alex is like my best friend. Effrey's one of my best friends. It was a group of us that would go, late night. Would go to the cage in College Point. And, we always working because one of the things we always thought, we got to keep grinding because grinders grind, man. And if you might not be the best player at the time, but if you're gonna work your ass off, you can get where you can get to. That was like the mentality that we always had. Nothing was given to us. It was always earned. Even though I did go to all boys Catholic high school. I went to all boys Catholic high school kind of like because it was the best option for me because I sucked at school, man. I was a very good student. But I remember when I went to Cross, my parents threatened to kill me if I failed because they were paying money for me to go to high school. You can go to high school for free. So but the CHSAA in the Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, the Catholic High School League is way better than the public school league, believe it or not, for talent and for sports. Believe it or not, basketball will probably be king in New York City for like a school like Lincoln. Would probably be, and there's some other good schools, baseball schools like George Washington. Those are some good programs, but overall the Catholic High School League is way more dominant than the PSL.
All right, so you attended, as we said before, you attended the New York Institute of Technology. You were the captain of the team. In your time at NYT, baseball was the only sport at NYT that was competing at a Division I level under the leadership of, you said, Bob Hirschfield. How much did you learn from Bob at your time at NYT, and what kind of baseball player did he make you?
Well, like I said earlier, Coach Hirsch was like a father figure to us. So he, taught us discipline, taught us, how to take ownership of your actions, stuff like that. He was just a really good baseball guy, and he let us play. There were times where he kind of took over. But one of the things that helped me in my development was he allowed me to call my games, which, he had a lot of trust in his players, especially his catchers, like me and the other guy who caught for the most part at Tech. While we were both there together, he let us run our own ship until he really felt like he needed to interject. The only time he ever really did that was, pickoff situations, something he really wanted. But for the most part, anytime he ever called a pitch, we'd always basically be on the same page. So, because he taught us, one thing he taught us there was to, do our homework and our due diligence of like learning about the other team.
When did you first start calling your own games as a catcher, and how hard is it to really learn how to call a good game?
So like I said, I'm playing for Dougie, cut from the same cloth as Coach Hirsch. Doug kind of let me do it as a freshman. And, my friend Alex you're talking about, I actually caught 2 no-hitters for him, and I don't remember ever. Yeah. So as a freshman. So I always felt like that was a strong point in my game. Especially at that age level, like, because you kind of typically you learn a lot of the guys we all play against each other, so we kind of know who's who. We all kind of grew up together, so that made it a little bit easier. Getting to college makes it a little bit harder because then you play some other teams you really not familiar with some players. But I felt like just following some golden rules allows you to be a better game caller. For example, I remember we were playing St. Edmunds in St. Edmunds High School in Brooklyn. I remember this was a learning thing. I called 2 fastballs for one of our pitchers, Eric Johnson, who went to high school with me and also went to college with me. He threw like 94, 95. And I remember this kid, their best player, their 3-4 hitter, fouled back. We're like 3 or 4 pitches in, 5 pitches in, and I accidentally called a changeup. That thing made its way over the plate, and then it made its way onto the Bell Parkway. And I remember Dougie coming in. I mean, he wasn't mad that like we called the pitch. He was mad because I didn't give him a reason why we called it. And so that was kind of like a learning thing right there. I was like, oh man, I got to have a reason for why I did it. So I think that really actually helped my game calling. And Hirsch was the same way. He said, why'd you call it? And if you gave him a reason, whatever, right or wrong, we'll talk about it later. But if you didn't have an answer, not good, because that means the thought process wasn't there.
Is that the hardest thing you think of being a coach now and trying to coach up our guys in the PCL or maybe as a catcher? Do you think that's the hardest part for a guy coming maybe from the DSL or something like that to really get them to learn how to call a game?
Yeah, 100%. And we're actually doing a really good job of it this, I guess you want to call it off season too. Like we've really hammered that with our guys because honestly, I know things can be learned, but I feel like it's a real feel thing at the lower levels, like kind of understanding hitters' tendencies, like how they start their feet. And then when you're playing at the lower levels, you're basically going more off the pitcher's strengths than you are the hitter's weaknesses because you don't have a lot of information to go off of. The only information, most of the information you have is what you're actually seeing in the box. And then you have to use your pitcher's strengths, to attack what you think might be his weaknesses. But the way I like to think of it is think of like the typical lineup of like, leadoff hitter is going to be the fastest guy. 9-hole hitter is going to be like the second leadoff hitter. Your 3 hitter is going to be your hybrid guy. Your 4, 5, 6 are going to be guys that can potentially put it out or at least hit with some power. And then your 7, 8 hitter, which is where I hit in the lineup, really don't do much. So, you kind of try to figure out. You kind of can go that way if you're not really familiar with the lineup, and then and then at the end of the day, it's what you're there for the pitcher. So, what is he got? What has he got that day? And if he's got nothing, you got to figure out a way to lead him, to the promised land. Sometimes they don't get there, but at least at the end of the day, you can say I did everything I could to help my guy be the best he could be. So when it comes to game calling, I feel like that's the hardest part of it. Like some people, beat receiving to death, beat blocking to death, beat throwing to death, especially at the youth level. The number one metric that's measurable for kids is, pop time. So like when I work with a lot of kids outside of the building, my high school kids in the Tampa area, and they always say, "Oh, my pop time," and it's like, no, we need to do a better job of X, Y, and Z before we can be good at this. So anyway, that's game calling is a difficult thing, and it's a really important trait to have.
Take you back to college here. What is your favorite memory that you had of either playing in college or just your time in college?
I would say the camaraderie with your teammates. It's a lot of the memories I have on the field of I've had a bunch of, me personally, I had a couple game-winning hits, stuff like that. I've had a couple times where I was not the guy who was delivering the game-winning hit, stuff like that. But I remember a lot of we had a really good group of guys at Tech. So a lot of the memories are both on and off the field. It's just that we're all still very close because the Tech alumni is really strong. When I say it's strong, it's strong. We all know each other. We all keep in touch. And now at New York Tech, believe it or not, head coach is former Blue Jay Frank Calinado, Long Island legend, head coach, big leaguer. The assistant coach is Jimmy Gels. He played at New York Tech, also played in AAA. The second assistant is Chris Rojas. He went to New York Tech. He played in the Phillies organization. The third assistant is Ray Gianelli. His name is actually at the stadium, 1991. The balls on the stadium to the right. All the guys that went to the big leagues. Former Blue Jay, former Twin, big leaguer. So 4 guys on that staff. 3 of them are alumni, Ray, Chris, and Jimmy. 2 are in the big leagues. So right now you have probably the best staff in college baseball is at New York Tech right now. So, there's a lot of history that program, man. It really is. And, it's one of those sleeper programs that a lot of people might not be like, oh yeah, I remember that school. Yeah. So, but at that school, man, there wasn't a lot of campus life. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was we made our experience there, us as a group made it worthwhile.
What was when you go undrafted, what was that process like? Did you know the Jays were going to call? Did you have other teams also talking to you, or how did that go for you?
Not really. The Jays were the only real team. I had a couple teams say, hey, we're going to put you in. All right. But Mike Pesci, who was the scout who signed me, and Mike was the best. He goes, I believe in you, George. You believe in you. Hopefully we get it done. We'll get it done. I was like, all right, hopefully if I don't go play, I'll go play independent ball maybe somewhere. But I remember the draft was over, and I was like, damn, I didn't get picked. And then 23 minutes later, I get a phone call from Pesh. He goes, "Hey man, Georgie, what's up? Blah blah blah." He goes, "Oh, we're gonna sign you." I was like, "Oh, what do you mean you're gonna sign me?" He goes, "We're gonna sign you with the Jays. You okay with that?" I was like, "Yeah, fine. Yeah, we're good." And then he asked, "Can you fly down here?" This is like a Wednesday. He's like, "Can you get down here Saturday?" I was like, I'm broke, man, but I'll find some money for a ticket. I'll figure out how to get down there. Like, my card doesn't work anymore, but like, I'll figure it out." He goes, "No, no, no, no. They'll pay for the flight." I was like, "No, really?" He goes, "Yeah, they'll pay for the flight." I said, "Oh, that's good." And then he goes, "They'll even pick up the cab fare from the hotel, from the airport to the hotel." I was like, "No effing way, really?" So that's awesome. All right, I'll see you Saturday. So that was it.
I'll tell you what, that flight must have been great too, knowing that it's on the Blue Jays dime, right?
Yeah, but I'll tell you a funny story. So with John Lucas, he was where'd he go? He went to school in Staten Island. He went to Wagner College. He was at the pre-draft workout I was at. It's got John Lucas. Him and I were buddies for a while. I remember we were on the flight going down. Him and I are in the back hanging out. We're all excited, blah blah blah. And I remember in front of us there was a guy who was on his first flight ever, and we hit a little turbulence. And his buddy turns to his buddy, goes, "Hey, is this normal?" Friend looks him stone cold in the eyes and goes, "No." I lost it in the back. So that's how I knew it was going to be a good summer.
You can't do that to somebody, but it's great.
No. I mean, John was losing it.
So you spent a few years in the Blue Jays organization as a player. In 2012, you got to play in the GCL with a very young 18-year-old Ryan Barucki. Did you catch Will in any of those games, and did you know he was fantastic?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to catch some good players in our organization. I got to catch Stroman. I got to catch Barucki. I got to catch Aaron, Joe Musgrove. There's a lot of big leaguers that I got the opportunity to catch, even if it was like a short time. But Barucki was always like that special kid. You always knew everyone knew he was going to be a big leaguer. It was just the amount of when. Because he's got the work. He's got the work ethic. He's stone cold killer, man. He's a hard worker. He's a good kid. And believe it or not, him and I are still friends. So he's one of those guys I always really root for when I see him on TV. A little extra love. But he's a good dude. He always knew he was going to be a big leaguer.
And we talked about it a little earlier. You were the catcher for the Home Run Derby, American League bullpen catcher in 2013 at Citi Field, right around your area there. How did you get that gig? How much did it mean to you being so close to home?
Jesus. That's how I got it. No, there's a guy who, I'm not going to mention his name, but he's involved in the Mets organization, and he was a former New York Tech alum. And he called my college coach and said, "Hey, is George around? I know he's playing independent ball, but is he around?" And I remember John Rico, the assistant GM for the Mets, called me. I was like, "Oh damn, I'm getting re-signed by the Mets. This is awesome. It's like a dream come true." I grew up a Yankee fan, but still. And then John goes, "Yeah, we're gonna do this." I was like, "Oh, you guys aren't looking to sign a catcher?" He said, "No." I was like, "Oh, I'll just take the 200 a day and be on national television for 3 straight days. I'm good with that too. It's not bad." So, but no, that's how I got that gig. It wasn't like I'd asked for it or anything. It literally fell in my lap. And then I was originally told I was able to keep the glove and the gear. And then, so the guy at the end of the day is like, "Hey, you got to give back the glove and the gear." I was like, "Oh, okay." Not happening. So I put the glove in my bag, and I made sure I wrote all over it, wrote my name, my initials, the whole 9, all over it, blah, blah, blah. So I get a phone call like a week later, like, "Hey man, you gotta bring that back." I was like, "No, I don't have it." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Oh no, the glove. Yeah, I don't have the gear, but I had to send the glove back. But I made sure my name and everything was on that glove." So I said, "If I send it back though, you got to send me something." So they sent me a whole bunch of stuff that I don't even know where it is anymore. But I was really hoping to keep that glove. So.
How much can you learn as a catcher catching big league pitchers like Mariano Rivera you were talking about?
Well, I didn't get to catch him. I did get to warm up Max Scherzer on the field prior to the game, and believe it or not, I caught the only 2 Blue Jays at the All-Star game there, Cecil and Loop at the time. And I caught Chris Sale, Matt Moore, Cecil, Loop, Bradford, Scherzer. I caught a bunch of good guys. But believe it or not, it's way easier to catch a big leaguer than it is to catch anybody else. Because it's not like buckshot fastballs in the GCL over your head at 98. It's like you know where it's going to go. Like at first it's hard because you have to learn what they do, because as a catcher, you're not just learning. Part of it is knowing what their arm slot, where the arm slot is. I'm going to go in depth with you real quick. So knowing the arm slot, once you know the arm slot and then you know the pitches, you kind of have an idea of what those pitches are going to do movement-wise, if that makes sense. So, you know, if like a 12-6, guys over the top, you know, high 3/4, 12-6, it's probably more like 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock type, you know, movement. But, you know, depending upon where the arm goes is where that pitch is typically going to go. So once you start to understand that, it makes it a little bit easier. And then knowing that a guy throws like 100, you're kind of like, all right, is it flat or has it got some movement on it? Typically, if he's throwing like 95, 96, it's probably flat. So you just hopefully put your hand there and hopefully it hits the glove. But like some guys, you know what the ball's going to do. So like if a guy's got like a good two-seamer and you know it's going to, like I say, he's a right-hander throwing a good two-seamer, you know it might move, say 4 to 6 inches this way. And I'm already prepared for it. And then the other thing too that you have to know when you catch these guys, you need to ask them, even at the lower levels, like, bro, what are you throwing to? You're throwing to my glove, you're throwing to a body part, blah blah blah, and are you starting it at my glove? And just getting that information, believe it or not, in the bullpens prior to these guys throwing, made them trust me to get ready to go. Like it wasn't just like, here's some random dude catching bullpens for us. It's like, oh, this guy knows what the hell he's doing. So it made it more comfortable for him to go out there to perform in front of millions of people. So I would ask the guy, hey, blah, 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 what are you doing? This one, I'm getting loose, but this is what it does. Okay, perfect, sweet, go. So getting familiar with your pitcher is really, really important. And then catching a big leaguer versus catching a minor leaguer, it's a lot, believe it or not, it's easier, even though they got nastier stuff, because it's more predictable of what it's going to do in a bullpen setting. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Someone can tell me I'm full of BS, but this is what I see. This is what I believe.
Well, that's you have. They're more consistent. That's what we've interviewed quite a few minor leaguers, and you know even Donnie Murphy said that you know it's just about consistency. That's what sets the minor leaguers apart from the major leaguers. So you know that fastball is going to be in there at 96, but it's going to be consistently in there at 96 or around the same area.
Oh yeah.
So you spent a short time with the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs.
Yeah.
Independent grind like.
Oh, it's the best. I got paid more. Believe it or not, I was getting paid like $1,800 a month. It was good. It was I liked it. Actually, honestly, my pro experience wasn't the best. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I wasn't exactly sure what the minor leagues was going to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit more like college, which it wasn't at all, especially being at the lower level that I was at. It was way different. It wasn't what I expected. And I felt like I didn't perform I didn't do what I thought I don't think I did very well. Basically, I thought I could have done way better. I didn't take it. I took it seriously, but I feel like there's things I could have done to stay around a little bit longer. And then when I got the independent ball, I felt more comfortable because it's older guys. And you're kind of like, yeah, it's either you do well or you go home. And there's no development. It's you put up or shut up. So I really like that. I kind of like that pressure a little bit more. And then I was going to get traded to a team in the Can-Am League. And then I got offered a job at IMG, like a part-time summer job at IMG, the IMG Academy in Bradenton. And I was like, you know what? Writing's on the wall. Let me go try and coach. And I was only at IMG for like a year before I left. I didn't really like it down there. And then I took a job with Baseball Factories, like a part-time summer thing. And 2 years before I got hired again as a coach with the Blue Jays. But the independent ball, it's a cool little thing as long as you can get paid a little bit. Like I got paid, your minor league salary at the time was like $1,200. I was getting paid $1,800. Independent ball, I thought I was rich. It's great. and I was 3 hours from home, 4 hours. Southern Maryland's not a bad spot. Waldorf, Maryland's it's only like 45 minutes, I think, from Baltimore. It was a cool little spot, or DC. So I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I had a really good coach too. This guy Pat Osborne, who was coaching in AA with the. You guys know Pat? He was in AA with the Yankees.
That was actually going to be one of our next questions. You were managed by Pat Osborne in Maryland, and Pat managed the Tampa Yankees for a couple of years. And we were just going to ask you if you guys crossed paths at all while you were down here.
Hell yeah! Every time I saw him, I go up to him, give him a little bit of a pound hug. Man, how's it going? And I apologized to him once. I was like, "Hey, man, like, I wish I would have." Played better for you. Like, just one of those things. I remember I came in the office one day when he was playing, when I was like, first second I was there, he's like, "Hey, you're going to be the backup." I was like, "I'll bet in 2 weeks I'm going to be your starter." And he goes, "All right, show me what you got." And so I got the opportunity to start a lot more after those 2 weeks because I showed him like that I was like, serious. So Pat and I had a pretty good relationship. I liked him a lot. He was a good. And then there was another guy there. There was 2 other guys. I can't remember their names, man. One was the pitching coach, older guy. And the other guy was a player coach, Jeremy, I think his name was. He was a player coach. And I think he ended up coaching the team at one point. They had a really good staff down there, man. It was. I loved playing down there. It was great.
Jeremy Sowers?
I can't remember his last name, man.
Yeah, I saw you guys pitched. You had a pitcher there, Jeremy Sowers, who used to pitch with the Indians for a few years, and he was like in his 30s when he was pitching there, like late, like 36 or something. So it might have been him.
Is he a goofy guy?
Very tall, and he's got. Last time I saw him, he had black hair. Right?
There was a dude there. I was playing with him. He comes up to me. He goes, "Georgie." I said, "What's up, man?" And I forget his name, but it wasn't this guy. Jeremy, I'm talking about, was an outfielder. But he goes to me, he goes, "Georgie, man." He's like, "Man, I'm so left-handed. I throw righty, and I can't even throw strikes." And I was like, "Huh?" So there's some characters, man, on that team. We had some good players, man. And one of my good friends actually from that team, this guy Pete Sakaris. He pitched for a while. He's part of the Greek pitches on the Greek national team still. Like, I made some good friends from that. It was a really good experience. I loved it. I really did enjoy it.
What's the biggest misconception that people probably have about independent baseball?
The quality of play, because of independent, I don't know if it's true or not anymore, but you have only a certain amount of leveled players you can have. So like when I was in the Atlantic League, that's like really good. So it's like a AA equivalent, I think, AA, AAA. You get some big leaguers on that team. So you can have like 3 or 4 big leaguers. You can have like 2 or 3 AAA guys, 2 or 3 AA guys, and blah, blah, blah. But then I had some guys on that team, and God bless them, man. They were really hard workers, but some of them were like independent guys. Like they were like, there's no way that they can get into affiliated ball. Like they were stuck there. Their thought of it was just kind of, it was like really different perspective. Like I had a different perspective than the big leaguers. I had a different perspective than the other guys, So I was like, it's not like that. It's like, like pro ball is a little bit different. So it's just different. Like people don't know what they get in. People don't know what it's like until they're there. I get asked those questions all the time. Like I do camps and stuff all the time. I get asked like, oh, the first thing, oh, you're coaching AAA, AA. It's like, no, there's like 9 levels. It's actually 10. If you think about it, you got AA. I mean, you got big leagues, AAA, AA, high A, which is where we're at. Low A, long season, low A, short season, advanced rookie, Dominican, tricky league. There's like 10 teams. Well, people don't realize that, man. There's so when you're in, out there in the world, I guess I'm gonna say, when you have to explain it to people and they're like, oh man, it's really hard. I'm like, yeah, it's really hard.
So how did you know you were going to get into coaching? How did you know you wanted to be a coach? And did you have any visions of it?
Yeah, I always said, that baseball is my career, but my jobs will always vary, if that makes sense. So at first I was like, I'm a player. Okay. Then I wanted to get into coaching, and then, your path to getting to where I'm at now was different than other people's paths. You know what I mean? Some people like one of my good friends, Luis Hurtado, he's and Chris, like me, Luis, Chris, Andy Fermin, we all kind of played together. So some of those guys never left the organization. I left and came back, so everyone's path's a little bit different. And, starting out, my first job was I was the bullpen rehab catcher, working with Knowlesy. Called bullpens all the time. And I remember one of the first things that Knowlesy said to me, he goes, "Remember, you're just catching bullpens." He said, "You're not a coach. Don't say anything." I was like, "All right, sweet." So just got to catch pens. That's it. All right, sweet. Catch, throw back. Throw BP. All right, sweet. It was a cool gig, man. I got to learn a lot from the bottom, and now I'm starting to hopefully crawl my way to the top. But like I said, your job will always vary. Like last year, the organization gave me the opportunity to run extended, which was really cool. That was fun, but very stressful. Baseball is taking me everywhere I've ever had the opportunity to go. And who knows what the next step is? Who knows? Maybe it's scouting, maybe it's a front office job. I don't know. Whatever opportunity happens to land in front of me, or any opportunity I earn. But like I said, baseball will always be my career, but my job will always be a little bit different each and every other year.
And you were talking about it. You work with the catchers a lot. The organization stacked with catchers. We feel like from top to bottom. You have Moreno, Kirky, Riley, Beck, all those guys. How easy does that make coaching and teaching some of these guys?
It actually makes it harder because they're so good. So you have to figure out how to make them better. The biggest difference between most of my friends are all cops, firefighters, sanitation, and Wall Street guys by day, and then they're baseball coaches by night. That's what they do. It's all my friends growing up. Some of them coach at college level, some of them coach at high school level. One of my best friends, Lou Bernardi, coaches at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. My friend Alex coaches at Queens College. So the difference between my job and their job is they get paid because they're winning. They keep their job because they're winning. For us, it's great to win. Yes, gotta love it. But if my player who I'm responsible for isn't developing, we got some questions to answer. You know what I'm saying? So it's really important to help these guys develop to get to the big leagues. Because do we want them to be big leaguers with the Blue Jays? Of course. Is it realistic to have 8 big leaguers on the roster with the Blue Jays next year? No. So we hope these guys develop into big leaguers, whether it's somewhere else or with us. But at least at the end of the day, I can say personally that I did everything in my power to help whoever I'm there to help at the time. So we're blessed to have really good catchers. We're really blessed. And then outside, like I said, I work with a lot of kids in Tampa area during our off season. A lot of people are like, "Oh man, Blue Jays got really good catchers." It makes it really easy to find extra work during the off season. They all think that, it's one of the best ever. So, no, real talk. No, we really do have some good guys, man. And we have, what's really important though? We have a really good group of catching coaches, man. We have we have Schneids, Huck, Schaaf, Mayorga, Danny Kineas. We have some really good. Dane Fujinaka, he's coaching in the Dominican League, and then who's the other guy? Matt Wright. We got some Jake McGuigan. Get some good coaches, man, to help with the catching department. So it's a blessing to work with good guys and to have good players.
So you coached in the GCL last year. Coming to what would have been Dunedin this year, and hopefully we get it next year. Do you think it's easier? You kind of mentioned, do you think it's easier to coach those younger guys? Maybe they're just coming into our system, coming out of college. Or do you think it kind of gets easier that they've already been in our system and they know what to expect from the coaching side?
I think it's, for me, I personally think I did really well with really young kids because, I think that's my strong suit. My strong suit is drill work, drill design. That's what I believe my strong suit is, like coming up with different ideas and creative ideas to develop a lot of physical tools. So my favorite thing about being the GCL is like a lot of these guys are not from the States. A lot of Latins come over, and you get a lot of young high school kids. So who's their first coach when they get to the States ever? It's going to be me, right? So I better make a really good first impression on them, about the culture here in the States, two, about the program that we put forth for them, as the catching program. So I think it's actually a really, really important job at the lower level, because like you're the first one they're going to see, first one they're going to meet. You're at the complex all the time. You're around rehab guys. Like, there's a lot to do, man. So I really enjoy that level because, I remember all my first coaches, man, they're all, we're all really good coaches. So, I had Omar Malave as my first manager. And I remember my first day I was signed as a catcher, but I was like number 30 on the depth chart. And I remember Omar comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Carroll, what's up? Oh, what's up, man?" He's like, "What else can you do?" And I was like, "Well, I can play first, play third, short, second, left, right, center, pitch, DH, water guy. You want me to help the guy in the trainer's room, fold the towel too, whatever you need. Here, team captain of my high school college team." You know what I'm saying? So he's like, "Okay, you play first." I was like, "All right, I'll play first base today." Sweet. I haven't seen a ground ball since 5 months ago, but all right. So I forgot who the coach was. I was like, "Hey, man, can you have some ground?" Yeah, no problem. First game as a pro as a first base, and didn't leave that position until the end of August. So
how tough is the communication from those guys coming over from the DSL, either for you with your brushing up on your Spanish, or with the pitchers as well, in terms of you have guys that have lived their whole life in the U.S. and maybe don't know Spanish?
Okay. So you gotta look at. I'm a New York City guy. I grew up in. One of my best friends is Dominican from New York City. I grew up in the biggest cultural area in the world. You know what I mean? So for me, it was probably a little different than some other people. So I was a little bit more understanding, a little more. It's about you raised, and you're raised different. And one of the best pieces of advice I was given, and I still use this advice today, the minimal Spanish talk it, and be okay with them laughing at you. And then when they speak English, laugh at them, but at the same time, make sure you're correcting them, and ask them to correct you. And that's a really good way to learn. If I can show humility, and that I actually care, that I really care. I want to learn. I need to help. My job is to help develop you. If we can't communicate, there ain't no development going on. You know what I mean? So I feel like that is a very important thing to do, is being willing to, put yourself out there that you actually care, because, we can speak, all three of us speak 9, 10, 30 different languages, not understanding one of them, but there's a way that we can communicate, especially in the baseball world, that shows I care for you. I'm really here to help you develop. So, one of the things that one of my mentors, Anthony Anaposi, who was a hitting coordinator with us, is with the Cubs now. He always says, "George, remember, you're not just a baseball coach, you're a life coach, man." So they're always going to remember what you do for them. And, but you have to, help them develop both as a player, but also as a man, and make them tougher and get them through it. So that's one of those things that always stuck with me. So, when I talk to the guys in Spanish, I'm going to say stupid things just to make them laugh, to make them feel, to open them up a little bit. At the end of the day, when you're trying to build relationships, it's all like dating. It's I got to, I'm going to, you're trying to make them feel comfortable. You're trying to find a personal thing with between you and them that's going to, help the development process.
One last question for you, George. You help a lot of young ball players outside the organization, like you said before. And if you go on your Instagram, up and down, you have different drills you're teaching and just showing kids how to do. Tell us a little bit about some of the camps you run and how you help out some of these high school kids.
Yeah, well, fun fact, I actually coached Jordan Groshans at a baseball factory event when he was 14, 15. No, one of the things that I do is, because I work during the off season, I still help out a lot with Baseball Factory. They're a national organization. They put on the UA game. They do all these different events. And that's my off season thing. And during this whole quarantine thing, we put together a lot of catching Zoom classes for some of the kids in the program and stuff. So I was a big part of that. one of the things, the reason why I do all this stuff for the Instagram is because I feel like there's a lot of content out there that's really good, but no one ever explains a damn thing about it. You see a lot of Twitter All-Americans posting all this information, but there's no reason for like why they're making certain guys do it. So I feel that's really important and I did it more for the kids that I get to see, because it was, I see all these kids with baseball practice, kids from all over the country. You know, there's a lot of kids from the Tampa area, and like if I can't work with them, at least I can give them some good content, or at least what I think is good content for them to help the development process. And sometimes I'll put some cool, goofy little drills up there, but I try to put all my own original content, or if I see something that I like from somebody else, I'll make sure to say, hey, I saw this from so-and-so, check this out, this is good. But I feel like it's really important in today's society, because another thing that my friend Anthony always talked about is remember, you're teaching a patient game in an inpatient society, so you need to give the why. It's really important, because if you don't give the why, they can just go Google it. So now there's a lack of trust. And if you don't know the why, say, hey, I don't know, let's go Google it together. So, or go ask somebody that knows. So I feel like when I put all that stuff, and I get some stuff, some guys make fun of me, like, oh, look at you, put this drill out, blah, blah, blah. No, I do it honestly to help with the kids that I work with, the kids that if I can't see them throughout the year, because I'm not going to California to go work with some kid. Like, but if we can talk over the phone, or we can communicate through Zoom, I get occasionally, I have a huge Latin following, believe it or not. So I get a lot of questions, dude. I'll get like once a week, I'll get a question in Spanish from like some random person, like Puerto Rico, Dominican. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, let me translate, blah, blah, blah. And they'll send me a video, and I'll be like, all right, boom. So I get a lot of kids that'll send me videos, and I'll tag them in the drill that I think will help them out the best. Be like, hey, Maddie, hey, take a look at this, boom, boom, boom. Look at this drill to help you with your hands or whatever. So, that's the reason why I do that, because I feel like I want to be someone who provides good information. I never want someone to get misinformed on certain things, because you see a lot of goofy stuff on the internet. Like, there's a couple of things on my page you'll be like, what the hell is he doing? Well, we tried something. If it doesn't work, don't chastise me for it. Just say, oh, it doesn't work. All right, whatever. Move on to the next thing. We learned something that doesn't work. Let's learn something that will work, though. So that's one of the things. That's the reason why I like to, I do that for a lot of kids.
George, thank you so much for taking some time to sit down with us during quarantine and sit with us for a little bit and talk about some baseball. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the fans out there of the Dunedin Blue Jays?
Yeah. Well, after tonight, we'll see you next year, I guess. So, I was really looking forward to being in the new stadium, being in the new ballpark. I was like, oh, first time I'm coaching in full season. We have and I'm not saying this to say this, we have a legitimately really good staff, like really good, between Murph, Maddie, Taylor, myself, our nutritionist, Layla, Luke is our medical guy, Batch is our strength conditioning guy. We were actually looking forward to working with each other. And when we saw the potential roster that we were going to have, we were like, damn, this is going to be a fun year. We have a lot of good players. We have a lot of good young potential prospects. We have a lot of kids who prospects. It's going to be a fun year. And, we're going to learn a lot about ourselves, because it was the first time Murph was doing this. First time I'm in full season. It was a lot of firsts for a lot of guys on the staff. So hopefully they can keep us together for next year, because we've developed a really good relationship amongst the staff during this whole quarantine thing. So, we were all looking forward to, being at the stadium, So, my mom lives up the street now. She moved here from New York. So I was like, I'll get a chair with your name on it. So I was going to talk to Shelby, but, no, we were all looking forward to it, man. And obviously we just have to wait another year. So that's what it is.
Thanks again, George, for taking some time to talk baseball with us.
No problem, man.
Andrew and George Carroll signing off. Dunedin Blue Jays fans, we'll see you next year at TD Ballpark. Take it easy.
Later, guys.